You were just released a few weeks ago, June 1st, 2022. How are you feeling?
You know, I like to call it, out of body experience and those words. I feel like, people say that and throw it around loosely, but honestly, I really felt separated from myself. I couldn't, um, for something that I wanted for so long. When I, it's like coming up out of the water. When you bring your face out of the water and you breathe air again, that's all that matters. All the what you thought before that is not, it isn't relevant anymore, and it just was so surreal and unbelievable, man. Being born again, it felt like, man. Being born again with the knowledge of knowing how to live and be right and take advantage and be productive in the world, man.
Yeah, you went behind bars. Your arrest was April 7th, 2007. You were 20
Mm.
years old at the time.
Mm.
You're now 35 years old. So that's just incredible. Before we talk about the case, I always start here. I think it's important to really humanize these stories. Tell me
Yeah.
the young man that you were when all this happened to you. The kid, the young person that you were at
So
20 years old in 2007.
so at 20 years old, my birthday is in March, and so it's early in the year. So I was 19. I had just turned 20. So in many ways, I was still 19. Because I still was a teenager, even though a 20-year-old is not a teenager anymore. That's the point I'm trying to make. I still was like a teenager. We wanted to run the streets and play. I wasn't necessarily on the right track. However, I was doing things like me and my guys. We thought we were going to be rappers. So we had studio time. We had people in places that we knew had studios, and we were actually spending time recording. And one of my friends, he's very good at like video, shooting videos and stuff. So we actually made a rap video before I left. And the actual day of the day before or the day after the crime, we literally did a session, and I was with guys who couldn't be anywhere close to doing anything like that armed robbery. I did have friends that were more into the street, but these particular group of friends that I was with doing the music and stuff, we were doing that at that time. And so the kid I was, I wasn't responsible. I had my daughter. I hadn't grew up yet. I didn't know myself yet. You know, I had a lot of potential. And that was the thing. And that's evident because I'm here today. That the potential finally blossomed, and it brought me to being the man I am today, to be able to overcome my conviction and be savvy and smart enough to even get out of there on my own. But the guy I was at that time, the young man I was, I was troubled. I was trying to find my way. I was ready and willing to do anything that would, help me, my family, my daughter. But I was just around. I had the wrong influences because there were no males in the community, in the family that were present. It was just women, and the women have to work, where they chose to work. They had to because it was a scarcity of the men, and that's what it boils down to, if you ask me. And so I was a young man without the guidance of an older man to look up to that could show me a route, a real legitimate route, a right way to channel my creative energy and my potential. My energy was spent mostly doing the wrong thing, which allowed them to be able to frame me for this, even though I had never done anything like this crime, the armed robbery, the conspiracy, the attack on Mr. Elker. Um, I still was living a life where they were able to frame me in that way, and so I wasn't just
Let's talk about
yeah.
Yeah,
Go
let's
ahead.
talk about the incident. So it's armed robbery, four men, March 30th, 2007, I believe, at a car wash. Two men approached, like you said, Mark Elker, as
Right,
he's opening his business. He's robbed. So this is um, this is what blew my mind. You
right.
have nothing to do with this. You have no
Yeah.
idea about this crime. But what
No.
happens is your uh, your father
Yeah.
contacts the sheriff's office
Yeah.
and says that you were one of the robbers.
Yes.
And it broke my
So
heart when I read it. How
so
did
yeah,
you find out?
and yeah, yeah. So it aired on the news on April 7th, or that's the day he saw it, or something like that. And when they showed the footage of the main two guys who were attacking Mr. Elker, My father was, I guess he said he was taking the dog out to take a potty. And when he looked at the news, it was showing that individual who he felt was me. And he just said, "Oh Lord, there's Ronnell." And he dropped to the floor. And, he was just so devastated. And he went and got a tape and put it in the VCR the old fashioned way, like we did in the old fashioned days in the 90s. And he recorded, he waited for the news to air again at the top of the hour. And he recorded that actual broadcast and, made calls around the family, was telling people that it was me. And, it's the world's dumbest criminal. He called my mom and told her that her son was on the news and this and that. But then he also called the police, called him to his house and gave him pictures that he had taken recently of me. Just, mischaracterizing or, using the pictures in an inflammatory way, misrepresenting what the pictures show and just trying to make it fit the narrative of this is my son, Rob. He actually stole gloves from my house and I recognized the coat. And he really just went above and beyond to secure in the law enforcement's mind that I was the guy. And little did we know he had his reasons, which were very, very significant.
Right. Didn't he had a record and he was trying to strike a deal with the police. Is that accurate?
So he had caught my father caught a manslaughter back in, I believe, 1979. He was a young man. A person died at the skating ring and he was held partially responsible for it. So fast forward all the way to 2006, he pulls out a gun on a lady, telling her to get out of his driveway or something. She calls the police. Police are already in the area conducting undercover work. So they sent some undercover unit to the area where the report of a man with a gun is. And my father proceeded to, threateningly point the gun at the undercover officer and threaten to shoot him, and that officer had to flee and get additional units. And they came back and they arrested my father, found out that it was a pellet gun. And because he's a felon, he doesn't have a real gun, but it looks to be a real sawed-off shotgun, but it's a pellet gun. And they charged him with felonious assault, man, because he was out of bounds. He was out of his mind that time, and so he was in that trouble right there. And because he had that prior manslaughter, the prosecutor's office stipulated him with a habitual enhancement, a habitual offender enhancement. This is you're habitually committing these acts, and so he had an enhancement, which meant that he was going to have a minimum of 6 years to do, 6 years in prison. And I guess facing that, he was a desperate man. And when he saw that news broadcast, it was perfect for him to curry favor, like they say, curry favor with law enforcement by, giving me up and present this narrative of, oh, my son is on the rampage in the streets. He's going to be killed in some type of violent fashion. He's terrorizing, he's robbing, he's on the rampage. I'm trying to save him. But, behind closed doors, he's in trouble. He lets them know, well, hey, can I get any favor? You know how they do it behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in Michigan. So
Especially.
your father, the entire time, he knew it wasn't you.
I'm not sure. I believe that he thought it was me. I believe that he initially had that feeling in his gut, like, because he didn't know me like that and he just knew I was on the wrong. My father is estranged to me, but yet has the upbringing, the childhood was very close-knit. My father is a Native American. My father is a Cherokee Indian, but we have African American in this as well. My grandparents are a mix of African American and Cherokee, but it's a strong, strong Cherokee Native American heritage in that side of the family. We speak it a little bit. He taught us that stuff, and it's a big part of even how I look, my image. So my father, man, we used to go hunting, fishing, out on the river. We did stuff that some of my other friends, they didn't go up like that. My father, we went out in the woods and hunted animals, deer. We shot pig. We done stuff that a lot of people from the urban community don't do. It's not part of the upbringing. And so it was, in a lot of ways, my father early on, it was all love. It was beautiful. It wasn't until I jumped off the porch, as they say, and started, being into the streets. And it's not like he's not, he's just living a double life. He just chose to disown me in a certain way based on the way that my mother left him, man. She left him high and dry when he got abusive with her. She never would look back. Some women can't get out of that cycle of a man with that control over them. They stay in it. But my mother, the moment that he was already psychologically abusive and verbally abusive, but when he got physically abusive, we ran out of that house and never came back. And then I became more of a reflection of my mother and her side of the family. and he was bitter about that, man. So I was the son that he would burn when it came time for him to make us to save his neck, because he has several children all around, and he has illegitimate children that he claimed. So to me, in my mind, I say that I was just a match that he burned. He just struck me off in one of his spawns. He just to save his own skin. It's real twisted.
So you are arrested and you are charged with 2 counts of armed robbery, unlawful possession of a weapon, and unlawful use of a weapon. Officers made no other arrests in the case.
No.
Uh, how? I mean, I understand how, but just give us an idea with this trial. There's no physical evidence. You have a solid alibi. Uh, how in the world were they able to convict you with no physical evidence whatsoever?
It was a combination of us being completely unprepared. Um, Completely, I mean, from names being spelled, I mean, my lawyer couldn't be more unprepared, unfocused. And I don't even fault him really, because it was a thing where my mother kept telling me, my mother, that's my rock. She hold me. If it wasn't for her, Lord knows. So she would say, if you get into some more trouble, next time they arrest you, next time they lock you up, next time you get away, I'm not coming. I'm not coming down to the jail. I'm not coming to the courthouse. But every time I got in trouble, guess who came? My mom. Every time. This was the last time. And she came and she showed up and she was, but she had low energy. She had no more, she was at her wit's end with it. So it was some court days she was late for. She was supposed to testify and stuff. She worked. She made it, but stuff had got postponed. It was just messy. It was just, it didn't go over smooth. We didn't have proper witnesses. The lawyer didn't know their names right. And it was just not tight on our end. On the prosecution's end, they had a very fantastic presentation to put on with my aunt and my father. It went left when my aunt, broke down and messed up on the stand. She messed up some of her testimony for the prosecution, which later they acknowledged that it's evident that she was on the stand lying. But it took all 15 years for me to acknowledge that, but it was evident from day one, when she couldn't even be questioned any longer because she broke down on the stand. But the point I'm trying to make to answer your question is proper preparation prevents poor performance. We were not properly prepared, so we could not prevent the poor performance of arguing on my behalf, because the issue was up front. The issue that freed me, along with me finding new evidence, which was my aunt recanting and saying that she was not being truthful and saying that my father had coerced her and all this. And then with Mr. Phil Locke, the photogrammetry expert, going to the crime scene and measuring the crime scene and applying those metrics to the still image to determine that this man was only 5'9", me being 6'1". Along with those two additional pieces of evidence, the issue about my father working with the prosecutor and them doing it, that was an upfront issue. If we could have just got that discovery brought into the case, it would have never went to trial. It would have never proceeded. So we wouldn't even have a 15-year.
And the judge refused to allow that in, your father's criminal.
Right. Yes. So
refused to allow that
but
in.
still acknowledge the obligation of the prosecution to reveal it. See, so that's the slick way they did it. And see, that's the thing they do. That's that smoke and mirrors game, because you can't tell me that you're not aware of this when you just refused it. You refused us to get it, but then said that they still have to show it. Well, if they don't show it, then we're going to believe that it doesn't exist.
All right. So you are convicted and you are sentenced to 17 to 25 years behind bars.
Yeah.
How are you surviving? How are you surviving being behind bars and hearing that kind of sentence? How are you getting by the day to day?
So I walked into the prison, and the overwhelming voice in my head was that act like you're supposed to be here. And if anybody thinks that that's crazy, I'll just tell them that that's just one of the options. That's one of the programs that you have a choice of subscribing to. For whatever reason, I subscribe to the program of look like you're supposed to be here, look like you're not a target, Stand up for yourself. I was a man with pride. I came in there knowing darn well I didn't do that, but I was in there for that. So, fellow prisoners, I would not expect sympathy from them going up to prisoners and telling everybody, hey, I'm innocent, can you help me? That's a surefire way in a prison to get preyed upon. My wisdom and my gut told me that. So me being a light-skinned brother, slim for no muscles, no, I'm tall, but no weight to me. No, I didn't have any type of, I'm not an intimidating looking guy, but I had an edge to me. I had a game about myself. I had I was game for, for defending myself. I was up for the challenge of, if somebody tries to victimize me, I'm not going down. Because you have a fight or flight choice in there. Or, you could be a sheep and follow a herd of guys doing the wrong thing. You could be a guy to stand up against everybody and be independent. You can be a slave. You can be a lot of things in there. And I chose to be a man. And even though I was fearful and shaking, and I developed a lot of anxiety in prison. I used to actually shake when I would undergo certain experiences for the first time. It would give me so much anxiety that I would have like my nerves would just make me shake like a leaf. And I would be like, I hope nobody sees me shaking and think that I've never been in this situation before, because I was trying to seem like I could stand in this room and hold my own, and keep my front up. But after I would go through those situations, I would get numb. I would get callous, I would say, and be able to, the next time, I would be able to embody and hold my composure and not go through that anxiety attack. And sometimes it would take multiple occasions of that for me to get that callus built up. But I just went in there, man. One half of me, and I get into astrology because I'm a Pisces, so I got that dual-sided nature. I had that side of me that was edgy and a chip on my shoulder. And then I had that side of me, man, like, you do not belong here. This is not what God has for you. This is not what your mother raised you. This is not, how did you end up here, bro? Like, I really had fought battles within myself that nobody could ever comprehend, man. To an angel and a demon, you know what I mean? And the angel was always the prevailer in all my battles. That's why I'm here today, because the angel and the blessing that was put on me from a young age held me. It kept me alive. I had many times when my life was on the line. I put myself in dangerous situations trying to test my mettle. And I went in there wanting to test my mettle, but I was righteous. I had a good soul, a good spirit. So I was able to have that angel on me and that protection on me. And I did the right thing more than I did the wrong thing. You see what I'm saying? I had those awakenings in there where I found my strength, found my identity. And I just believed in my mind. I'm a guy who gets into my head. And I believe in the law of attraction. I learned it and I believe in it. I conjured up my freedom in my mind. I kept writing. I'm good at my language arts, reading and writing skills are very high. I got high marks on that. And I utilized those skills. So while I was still putting up that front of being tough and bad, and I got into my share of fights and I defended myself against the odds to secure a reputation where I wouldn't have to do that later. And I was successful in that. I never hurt anybody or did anything to somebody who didn't, attack me first or bring harm to me. I'm not a victimizer. Very, very empathetic, very kind and generous, but those are not the things that you want to put up front in prison. You put those things up front in prison, people are drooling, they're looking at you like, I got to get him and take his family's money. His family is sending him money. Guys will get in there and they'll take it from you. They'll finesse you, get you secure, you hug you, wrap your arm around you, tell they're going to rock with you every day and take your stuff.
Did they ever find the person who committed this robbery, or once they got?
Absolutely not. So I have a joke, and and I say that. So it was 4 guys that did it, and I have a joke, and I say one of them went on to get married. One of them, got a job at Taco Bell. One of them, moved out of town. Never heard of him. And one of them got locked up for something else. He's doing a bit right now. Who knows? Like,
Who knows? Who
who
knows?
who knows?
Last question before we go. How do you feel about your father today?
So I recently discovered Facebook, and I like got into it. I was able to start to put some stuff on it and interpret it. And lo and behold, maybe on like the second day of me being on Facebook, my father popped up with a friend request, man. Unbelievable. My father didn't one time ever send me any correspondence, shred of information into the prison saying, hey, son, hope you taking care of yourself. I did that to you to help you out, or anything of that nature, anything. And here he pops up on the screen saying it's a friend request. And I was just incredulous, and I ended up deleting it. And my thing is this: I'm fine. I don't want to hear an explanation at this point of why you did what you did. If, like, at the most, I would say my piece and just say, you know what, thank you for what you did, but no thanks to you for who I became. You don't get any credit for me becoming a great man, a leader, a giver, you know. And I'm not even going to put all those other, titles on my name because I haven't done those things yet. I'll let my peers in the community crown me whatever my actions show. So my father gets no energy. I owe him no explanation. He's not entitled to give me his. I want him to stay in his lane. I'm gonna stay in mine. Um, if I see him, I will address. I will look eye to eye with him. I will acknowledge his presence. I will um, try to remove myself from the premises. But I will never be. There would be no. In no way would I ever be, hostile towards him, because there is no place for that answer. For the answer to be violence, hostility, retaliation.
You obviously have not been compensated by the state, so I want to tell people, if you want to donate to Ronnell's Cash App, it is RJ1281. That's $ RJ1281, $RJ1281. Ronnell Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your story, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you for the opportunity and the platform, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. I subscribe. Thank you.